Hey guys, what's going on? Super Greg here. We're going to be starting our new series, 3-section staff, brand new series, starting from the basics. Hang on, here we go. Hey guys, what's going on? So, I'm glad you made it. We're going to be doing the 3-section staff today. So I want to talk about, since we're going from the basics, I want to talk about the basics of the 3-section staff, the difference between wushu competition and actual martial application and traditional use of the 3-section staff. And it's not bad towards either one of them, but just giving you an idea of the three, because they are very different. And it's very, very important to understand what you're getting and what you're working with, right? So it's very, very important. With my 3-section staff, this is a really old 3-section staff. So my wife's gonna get really close here so you guys can see. So the lengths are only 3 fingers apart, and that's the way it should be. Unfortunately, the way they sell them now is they're just way too big. So the length should be 3 fingers apart. And if you look at the metalwork here, there's no ball bearings, and you don't want ball bearings. You want it to flow this way. Ball bearings eventually heat up to the point where they get old and they just rip apart and break. With these 3-section staff that right here that I have is about 30 years old, and every time that the wood gets bad, what I do is I take everything apart and I get new wood and I put new wood on, and I have a brand new 3-section staff that'll last another 30 years. So this one is the second set of wood that I've had on there, and I'm going to be changing this eventually. So it's really important, and I'll show you the difference between these. Let me grab the
3 hours later.
Okay, and these are the ball bearings. So the difference is look, you have a whole palm's width on these 3-section staff, and that's not what you want, because it doesn't spin the same way and it doesn't flow the same way. And this is the ball bearings, which is great because it allows the staff to move in many different ways, but it's not very natural. And eventually those ball bearings in there pop and break, and once that breaks, this thing flies off out of control. And that's what you don't want. Plus these are really light. So a lot of the wushu stylists use lighter 3-section because it's easier to maneuver. And a lot of the stuff they do is banging on the floor when they spin it. And just remember, it's a 3-section staff, right? So it's a flexible weapon. When it hits something hard, it's gonna ricochet off, or it's gonna stop momentum. So slapping the floor or smacking the floor with the weapon is great when you're showing the weapon off and you're doing techniques. But unfortunately, when it comes to the martial aspect of it, you're missing the whole other aspect. You're missing all of the martial part of it. You're just using the blossoms and the flares of the motion and the movement to captivate an audience, but we're missing the martial aspect of it. And it moves very similar to short sticks. It's a very similar type of movement, except that it has a center rung. So the measurement of a 3-section staff is 3 fingers in between each length plus the length of the staff. And the length of the staff should be between 27 inches to 28 inches, just so we're all on the same page. All right. Obviously, if you're smaller, the length should be a little smaller, but for the most part, that's it. So flexible weapon. That's the beauty about this weapon. Okay. So it can be used as a long range. It can be used as a short range weapon, and it's easily used as almost like a chain whip to whip around your opponent's weapon to hit them. And that's the skill of what a 3-section is all about. We're going to be working with basic movement today. So we're going to start with holding the staff. Okay, so holding the 3-section staff, you should be able to maneuver and grab the staff immediately. So one angle or one end should be facing up, obviously, and the other end should be facing down. There's no possible way for it to be facing any other way. So you really can't get that wrong. So I usually have my 3-section staff where I have this end sticking out. So from this position here, it sticks out, okay? And from here, I just peel the front of the weapon, and I have the front of the weapon out in front of me, and that's important. How we hold the 3-section staff, if you have somebody holding it all the way down here by the ring, absolutely wrong. Not only can you hurt yourself, because if it spins and you end up crushing your fingers, that's bad. If you're moving and maneuvering a weapon and you're all the way at the ends, you're limited on your motion, your movement, and your coordination, and you have no real strength all the way at the bottom here for this weapon. You want to be 1 fist length from the bottom so that you have a decent amount of real estate in the front to either strike or to block. But you also have more mobility, and even if I roll, my fingers don't get close to the links at all. Okay, so that's where you want to be. So I usually tape from here to here to keep the screws from backing out of the 3-section staff, and also gives me a good idea of where my hands need to be at all times. Okay. Okay, guys, so working with the 3-section staff, we're going to start off horse stance position, and right from here, our horse stance compared to our fighting stance is what we call that fighting horse, right? So I'm not this way, I'm actually twisting my body this way. So I'm in a good fighting horse stance here. This is not by my face, because if somebody hits the weapon, it's going to hit me. So I always keep the weapon close to my elbow. Same thing if we were doing snake style, or if we were doing tiger, or if we were doing mantis, it's always by the elbow. The other hand is always by the elbow. So from horse stance position, we're gonna slide, and we're gonna work with our scraping down block. So from horse stance position, right from here, we're gonna scrape, and then we're gonna thrust with our left. So the power comes from our waist, our hip, and twisting our body. So I train Northern Shaolin, and all of our forms and everything that it teaches, everything comes from the heel, from the hip, from the floor, and we turn the body. So we go from Mabu to Pubu, right? We go from Mabu, horse stance, to forward stance position. So from horse here, we're gonna scrape and go into forward. Right from here, we're gonna switch our body stance, come straight through into our horse, scrape, and thrust. So one more time, as I step through, I'm gonna step through into my horse, I scrape, I turn the body, the weapon turns, and as I turn my hip, I explode into the weapon, and my weapon goes straight out, and the lower part of the weapon blocks the lower part of my body. All right, from behind. So from horse stance position, right from here, I'm gonna measure out my hands where they need to be. Good fighting horse stance. From here, scrape, thrust, step through, scrape, thrust, step through, scrape, thrust. When I turn to go back to the other direction, I go into my cat stance position, come over the top, and that's what we call a blossom. So one more time, from horse stance position, I want to go from here, I want to go to the other side. So I come back, I bring the left hand over, I keep it to the inside, I step with my right foot and blossom the weapon over. And we do it again. Scrape, thrust, step through, scrape, thrust, step through, scrape, thrust. Come back, 1, come over, 2. Again, scrape, thrust, step through, scrape, thrust, step through, scrape, thrust. Okay? So, when we're utilizing the 3-section staff, if you notice, I'm not doing all these crazy blossoms right now. We're understanding the basics. The basics is blocking the body and thrusting. Now, if I was standing upright here, I can do the same thing. We don't have to be in horse stance, obviously, right? So the horse stance gives us strength, teaches us transitional movement, teaches us how to develop strength, how to develop where the strength comes from, teaches us fundamentals. Now for here, same thing, straight strike, I'm right here. Right from guard stance, scrape is here, thrust is right here. So it's 1, 2. From here, I can turn the body and go in again into the same thing. Scraping thrust, turn the body, block, thrust, come over the top. A million different things to do, but we're gonna stick with the basics. Basics tells us scrape thrust, back to guard. Scrape thrust, back to guard. Scrape thrust, back to guard, scrape thrust. And from here we switch back to our guard. And we can go in a guard stance from here. Same principle, same movement. Scrape thrust, back to guard, scrape thrust, back to guard, scrape thrust, back to guard, scrape thrust. From here, this is coming over, so you could actually hit or block here, come over, and go back to your guard. All right, so the next block we're gonna do, so we're gonna stick with the lower part. So we're gonna do, we did the scrape thrust. The next is gonna be a press. So a press thrust. So it's similar, scraping gets the weapon off to the side, so you can thrust the weapon out. This is pressing the weapon down, so you can come over the top. Okay, so this can be done obviously this way, but we can also press up, which is what we call a guak, which is a block, right? So we're just gonna stick with scraping and pressure down for today. So from horse stance position, we always start in our traditional horse stance to make us work the technique. And from here, it's gonna be press, turn the hip, thrust. So this one is just pressing gentle, right? We're gonna press to redirect the weapon out of the way and thrust over the top. From here, we leave the weapon right in front. And as I turn, the weapon naturally switches position. Press, thrust. Turn, press, thrust. Turn, press, thrust. And if you notice, every time I step forward, the front part of the weapon goes right to the back because it's all connected together. And what a lot of people miss is that when I want power from the front, right, I don't have to just use my wrist. I can pull the back of my hand. This is what everybody misses. So I want to get good strength. I use my front hand, I use the wrist, and I use the back to pull to get a really good strike. Most people don't know that. So from here again, from fighting horse, we're gonna press, thrust out, press, thrust. Notice how the weapon changes. Press, thrust, press, thrust. Now we want to go back the other way. We do the same practice. And by doing that, it just teaches us good transition. Press, thrust, press, thrust, horse stance, forward stance. Turn the body, go back to your guard. Basics today, guys. Scraping down thrust, pressure down thrust. They're both in the same realm of lower body protection. And you get to work your horse stance, you get to work your transitional stance. Remember, mabu to pubu, right? Horse stance to forward stance, turning the hips, getting your power from the hips. All of this, this will build up as we go through the series. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you don't know, check out the Patreon page. Guys, the Patreon page has videos like this without commercials and an extra 2 to 3 minutes, maybe 4 to 5 minutes of extra material every single month. Check it out. Check out the tiers. Check out what you get. There is merch. Bam. You guys can get the merch there. We're going to have loads and loads of merch on the Patreon page for you guys to purchase if it's something that you're interested in. We do in-house classes. We do Zoom classes. Check out the website up top. You guys can come for free classes if you look. We do have Zoom classes for free as well if it's something that you want to try out. And we are all over the internet, guys. Check out my Instagram, check out my TikTok, and check out my Facebook page. Guys, thank you so much, and we will see you soon. Remember, don't complain, just train. I'll see you soon.